more women actually are going to college these days than men, percentage-wise. In fact, sometimes you'll see different colleges worried that the number of men are dropping off and the number of women are going up. But in engineering, it is going down. So we see attrition rates for men and women being different, meaning that more women will leave engineering than men. We also see that women, if they leave engineering, they have a higher grade point average than the men who leave engineering. And so some people just say it's a little bit of a confidence issue, that if a woman gets a B on an exam, she takes that as an indication that she's poorly suited for engineering, where if a guy gets a B on an exam, they'll be more likely to blame external factors. Oh, it was the test, it was the professor. About me, I'm a good engineer.
I think a lot of it is that they don't think it'll get better. And, well, I mean, my dad's an engineer, so he's already told me that it does, and I'm hoping that it does for my sake. Well, engineering's a pain in the ass. I mean, it's much more interesting to say I'm taking a Viking mythology or philosophy class than physics or chemistry. And I can see, I mean, even a lot of the girls who I have known who went in as freshmen, a lot of them are already transferring out. And I mean, it's a lot of work, and I can see how you would be very discouraged as a freshman.
One of the problems that I see with women going into science and math fields and technical fields to begin with is that it's just not it's not an interest. It's not a cultivated interest anyway in grade school and high school. So I think that the interest is failing rather than the gender not being allowed to come in. Well, I remember when I was little, my dad bought my twin sister and I hammers so we could help him rebuild our house. And I spent a lot of time hanging out in a weld drilling shop and doing other stuff. I had an unusual childhood.
My dad and I built a 3-story dollhouse when I was about 6 years old. And we furnished it and carpeted it and put electricity in. It was very fancy.
Engineering, it sounds better than being in an LAS school. No, I'm just kidding. But I like to solve problems, and I like to build and design things. It's just kind of a passion of mine, Well, maybe not so much a passion, but as a life's habit.
I wanted to be an architect since I was very small, and I was really into it, and I used to do a ton of floor plans. I wanted to build houses. But as I looked into it, I learned that engineering is a much easier nut to crack.
Some students feel pressure in that they stand out from the crowd, that they're just more noticeable because they're different from the usual. And some students can turn this to their advantage in that they're noticed at career fairs, they're noticed by the professors, so they can get good letters of recommendation because the professors get to know them better. So it can be a positive as well as a negative. Sometimes just being the only girl in a class can be a little bit of a negative, and it might not be one that you feel consciously. It might be one that you'll look back and see, yeah, that was kind of a weird experience, and I wish it had been otherwise.
Okay, men in engineering, they think that, oh, what floor are you going to in an elevator deserves a grunt as a proper response. They also think that holding doors, I guess, is considered rude. What they don't know is that one day I'll be their boss. I think that a lot of the times, by having both men and women doing a job, you get a woman's touch, and a lot of the times men overlook some things that women don't.
I think it's important to increase the number of women in engineering for several reasons. One is just a talent issue. If you're somehow intentionally or unintentionally ignoring a portion of your population, you're losing talent. And that's a very sad thing. I think the profession really needs to draw talent from everyone. Engineers serve society. And as a profession, we can't serve society unless the profession reflects society.
You know, rather than encouraging women to go into bookkeeping or housekeeping or cutting hair, which, you know, that's an interest to a lot of women, but really push the women who are interested in their physics class or their chemistry class to go into engineering so they can make a difference in the world. I know that sounds really cheesy.
I think that by promoting math and science studies when children are younger, especially to girls, that coming into college as a freshman with all these very scary classes wouldn't be so daunting.
I think it's very important for women to have role models and mentors, so you can see where you could be in a few years, that there are other people who make it. And I think also it legitimizes the choices you make and the choices you can make. So for me to know that I have friends who have made it up to high levels of management, that's very nice. But it's also nice for me to know that I have friends who are working part-time so they can be with their families, still doing an engineering job.
It's a bit